Hello children, welcome to today's English class. I hope you all are safe and healthy at home. Children, in the last class we had dealt with the reading skills and we had also practiced a passage, that is an unseen passage, according to the latest pattern of question paper issued by the CBSE. And children, there is a confusion among many of you regarding the reading skills, the type of questions that would be asked in the reading section. I had told you before also, and let me repeat it for you once again. This year you are going to get 2 passages, unseen passages in the reading section, each carrying 10 marks, and in both the passages you will be getting 10 multiple choice questions. In fact, you will be getting 12 multiple choice questions, out of which you have to attempt only 10. And you need to read the passage very well, as you know that you will be getting 15 minutes time for reading. So, you must utilize the 15 minutes given to you for reading the question paper, and you must read both the passages very carefully during the reading time. And then once you get your question paper, you need to again read the passage very carefully and then go through the questions. Though you have options this year, you need to understand the passage well, and I told you, you must have a very good vocabulary, as you will be getting 2 types of passages. The first one would be a discussive passage, which needs inference, evaluation and a very good knowledge of vocabulary, because you will be getting questions related to vocabulary also. Like I told you, writing the antonyms, writing the synonyms, and also sometimes there are negative questions. Which word in the passage does not mean? You are used to answering questions related to the example like which word in the passage means the same as. But you have to read the question very carefully, as I told you, which word in the passage does not mean this. So, for attempting questions related to vocabulary, you must have a very good vocabulary. You should know a lot of words and their meanings. That is why a lot of reading is required on your part. Even when you are reading your prose text and your supplementary text, you need to have a dictionary with you, and you must underline the words and find out their meanings and note down in your notebooks, and you must keep looking at those new words which you have learnt. Once you know the meaning of many words, it becomes easy for you to attempt questions related to vocabulary. Now, today we will be practicing a factual passage, which is based on case study and which requires analysis and interpretation. Okay. Children, we have done analytical paragraph and we have tried to understand how you must analyze the given data, okay, information based on case studies. It could be in the form of graph or pie charts, line graphs, or in the form of tables. So, in the factual passage, you will be getting some information in the form of tables, or sometimes it could be in the form of line graphs or charts, and the questions would require you to analyze those information given and answer the questions. Therefore, you need to read the passage again and again very carefully, and then only you will be able to answer the questions correctly. Children, if you answer the questions in the reading section correctly, you can score even full marks, 20 out of 20. So, this is the section where you can score maximum marks once you develop the habit of reading. Children, I stress on this point that you must develop your reading skills. So, let us move on to the passage I have for you today, which is a factual passage. Please listen carefully and look at your screen and try to understand the passage, and then we will move on to the question answers and try to attempt them. The UN's 2017 International Year tells us that sustainable tourism is an important tool for development, most importantly in poor communities and countries. Today, sustainability, environmental, social and economic, is increasingly recognized as the benchmark for all tourism business. As noted by the UN World Tourism Organization, 57% of international tourist arrivals will be in emerging economies by 2030. The various tourism terms are defined as follows: ecotourism, responsible travel to natural areas that conserves the environment socially and economically, sustains the well-being of local people and creates knowledge and understanding through interpretation and education of all involved, including staff, travelers and community residents. Ethical tourism, tourism in a destination where ethical issues are the key driver, example social injustice, human rights, animal welfare or environment. Geotourism, tourism that sustains or enhances the geographical character of a place, its environmental, heritage, aesthetics, culture and well-being of its residents. Pro-poor tourism, tourism that results in increased net benefit for the poor people in a destination. Responsible tourism, tourism that maximizes the benefits to local communities, minimizes negative social or environmental impacts, helps local people conserve fragile cultures and habitats or species. Sustainable tourism, tourism that leads to the management of all resources in such a way that economic, social and aesthetic needs can be fulfilled while maintaining cultural integrity, essential ecological processes, biological diversity and life support system. Age 35 to 54 years old, although age varied with activity and other factors such as cost. Gender 50% female and 50% male, although clear differences based on activity were found. Education 82% were college graduates, a shift in interest in ecotourism from those who have high levels of education to those with less education was also found, indicating an expansion into mainstream markets. Household composition, no major differences were found between general tourists and experienced ecotourists. Party composition, a majority, that is 60% of experienced ecotourism respondents stated they prefer to travel as a couple, with only 15% stating they prefer to travel with their families and 13% preferring to travel alone. Experienced ecotourists, tourists that had been on at least one ecotourism oriented trip. Trip duration, the largest group of experienced ecotourists, that is 50%, preferred trips lasting 8 to 14 days. Expenditure, experienced ecotourists were willing to spend more than general tourists, the largest group 26%. Important elements of trip, experienced ecotourists, top 3 responses were a wilderness setting, wildlife viewing, hiking and trekking. Motivations for taking next trip, experienced ecotourists Top 2 responses were enjoy scenery, nature, new experiences, places. Children, I hope you tried to listen to the passage as I was reading, and now let us look at the question answers with options. So, please look at your screen very carefully and try to understand the question, and let us try to find their answers or the correct option. On the basis of your understanding of the passage, attempt any 10 questions from the 12 that follow. Question number 1, in the line recognized as the benchmark, the word benchmark does not refer to. Children, please listen to the question as I read once again. In the line recognized as the benchmark, the word benchmark does not refer to. So, please be careful, you have to find the option which contains the sentence that does not refer to benchmark. Now, you should know the meaning of benchmark. Benchmark is a standard set for something to be judged. You know, it is a standard to, judge something. So, for example, his paintings set a benchmark for quality. Okay. So, you have now understood the meaning of benchmark. So, now you have to find from the options which option does not refer to benchmark. A basis for something, the criterion required, a standard point of reference. Now, option C is the right option, the ability to launch something new. So, this is not related to the meaning of benchmark. So, option C would be the right option. Now, let us move on to the second question. The World Tourism Organization of the United Nations in an observation shared that, let me read all the options for you. Emerging economies of the world will gain 57% of their annual profits from international tourists. Countries with upcoming economies shall see maximum tourist footfall from all over the world in the next decade. A large number of international tourists in 2030 will be from developing countries. Barely any tourists in the next decade shall travel from an economically strong nation to a weak one. So, children, in the passage, after reading it carefully, we would come to the conclusion that option B would be the right option. Countries with upcoming economies shall see maximum tourist footfall from all over the world in the next decade. So, I told you to answer questions of this kind, you need to read the passage very carefully, and you will find the answers from the passage. Now, question 3, one of the elements that is important to eco-tourists on trip is, okay. Now, we had read in the passage, and now I hope you will be able to guess the right answer. Option A is wild and untouched surroundings, B cultural exchange, C car and bus rides, and D fully furnished flats. So, what do you think eco-tourists would prefer? No doubt it is option A, wild and untouched surroundings, isn't it? So, now let us move on to the next question. Choose the option that lists the correct answers for the following. So, two situations have been given here, children. So, let us try to read both the situations very carefully. The first situation is Asha Matthew, an NRI, loves animals and wishes to travel to places that safeguard their rights and inculcate awareness of their rights. What kind of tourist is she? Now, situation 2, Gurdeep Singh from United Kingdom is an environmental scientist and has always chosen to travel to places that are examples of a symbiotic relationship between man and nature. What kind of tourist is he? So, children, we had seen in the passage the definition of different types of tourism was given, isn't it? So, you need to go through all those definitions very carefully and answer the question. So, the first option is an eco-tourist and is a geotourist, is an ethical tourist and is a geotourist, is a sustainable tourist and is a pro-poor tourist, is a geotourist and is a responsible tourist. So, the first one is regarding safeguarding the rights and creating awareness, right. So, the option would be she is an ethical tourist, and since the second option talks about the relationship between man and nature, so he is a geotourist. So, option B would be the correct option, is an ethical tourist and is a geotourist. So, let us move on to the next option. Based on your understanding of the passage, choose the option that lists the inherent qualities of geotourism. Now, what is geotourism? So, which of these options talk about that? So, there are two options, and you have to choose the correct. In each option there are two points from the above table. So, let us read all the options. Showcases adventure sports, promotes landscape appreciation, promises luxurious travel, includes being environmentally responsible, believes in commercializing forests, initiates donations for the underprivileged. So, we had seen that geotourism is related to environment and nature. So, which option would be the right one? It would be option C, that is option 2 and option 4, promotes landscape appreciations and includes being environmentally responsible. So, option C, that is 2 and 4 would be the right answer. Now, question 6, in the market profile of an eco-tourist, the information on gender indicates that female eco-tourists were more than the male eco-tourists, the activity preferences were varied in females and males, the choice of things to do on a trip were quite similar for both the genders, male eco-tourists were frequent travelers. So, which would be the correct option? In the market profile of an eco-tourist, the information on gender indicates that, which would be the right option, children? It would be the activity preferences were varied in females and males, isn't it? Now, let us move to the next question. The education aspect in the market profile of the eco-tourist revealed that mainstream market trends were popular with undergraduates, eco-tourists were only those who had basic education, mainstream markets were popular tourist destinations for educated eco-tourists, eco-tourism was no more limited to the small group of highly educated travelers. So, in the market profile of the eco-tourist, it was very clear that eco-tourism was no more limited to the small group of highly educated travelers. That means option D is the right option. Now, question 8, according to the survey conducted by the Travel Bureau, the total percentage of experienced eco-tourists who did not prefer to travel alone was. Children, again you can see did not written in capital letter. So, you must read very carefully the question. So, now you have to find out the option which tells us about the total percentage of experienced eco-tourists who did not prefer to travel alone. 60%, 75%, 15% and 13%. So, the right option would be option B, 75%. Now, question 9. According to the survey, one of the most powerful driving forces leading experienced ecotourism to invest in new trips was setting up workstations in new places, the chance to go camping in the wild, competing with other ecotourists as frequent travelers, the opportunity to travel to new places. So, children, when we tried to read the passage and understand, so which was the most powerful driving force leading experienced ecotourism to invest in new trip? That was the opportunity to travel to new places. So, option D would be the right option. Choose the option that lists statement that is not true. 4 statements are given here and you have to identify the statement that is not true, which talks about the information given in the passage. Economically backward countries will benefit from sustainable tourism. The tourism business currently recognizes sustainability as an important factor. Emerging economies will receive negligible international tourists in the near future. The sustainability factor in tourism is a significant means for development. So, if you look at option A, option B and option D, they are true. Okay. But if you look at option C, emerging economies will receive negligible international tourists in the near future, that is not true. I hope you will agree with me. So, here option C is the right option. Now, let us move on to the next question, that is 11. The survey clearly showed that the age range of ecotourists remained the same for the choice of tourist attractions to visit, changed with the monetary requirements for the trip, fluctuated due to male-female ratio, was constant across various features of the trip. So, when we talk about the age range of ecotourists, it changed with the monetary requirements for the trip. So, option B would be the right option. Now, question 12, who isn't an experienced ecotourist? The person who has travelled as an ecotourist once earlier, the person who is yet to travel even once as an ecotourist, the person who is a regular ecotourism enthusiast and traveller, the person who is not regularly travelling on ecotourism trips. So, children, here you have to find out who is not an experienced ecotourist. Now, when you look at all the 4 options, the person who is yet to travel even once as an ecotourist is not an experienced ecotourist, because if a person has travelled even once, he would have some experience. So, option B would be the right option. So, children, I hope you have understood how you have to attempt the questions related to the reading section. So, children, let us quickly try to revise and understand whatever we have learnt about reading skills, so that it will help you to attempt the questions related to the reading section very well. So, 2 types of passages: discussive passage, which requires inference, evaluation and vocabulary. To attempt the discussive passage, I told you, you must know what is inference, that we had already discussed in the last class, evaluation, of the information given in the passage and vocabulary. So, you must continuously strive to enrich your vocabulary. That is very important, children, and I have been telling you, you need to improve your reading skills, and in order to attempt the questions related to the discussive passage, you need to have a very good vocabulary, and as I told you, you must know the meaning of lot of new words that you come across while you try to read from different materials, right. Now, second is a factual passage. Factual passage, as I told you, is based on case study, and for that you need to analyze. It is based on interpretation. Okay. So, I told you this passage contains information which is based on case studies. So, it could be the information on any current issue. Therefore, you need to watch English news regularly and read English newspapers and try to update yourself with the current happenings across the world, so that you have an idea of what is happening around you and what are the social issues, what are the various challenges related to children, or it could be any environmental issue. So, the case study could be on any current issue. So, therefore, if you have to score good marks in this particular passage, the factual passage, you need to update yourself, and therefore, you must watch English news regularly and you must read newspapers. Children, let me tell you that once you read newspapers regularly and you listen to news regularly, you get to hear a lot of new words and you try to find out the meanings of those words, and then you learn lot of new words and you also try to find out their meanings, and once you know their meanings, you use them in your writing part also, and also you will be able to answer the discussive passage questions correctly, because it contains questions related to vocabulary. So, here you need to analyze the information and try to interpret correctly the information given. And then, children, reading all the options is very important. Many a times in a hurry, you just read the question and you do not read all the options, and in a hurry you just guess any option and just tick the option, any one of the options. Okay? So, please do not do that. You should not guess answers. Okay? So, if you have to find out the correct option, you must read all the options correctly, and then if required you can go back to the passage again. Though you have read the passage twice, you need to go back to the passage. After reading all the 4 options, if still you have a doubt, you have to go back to the passage, so that it helps you to tick the correct option. So, children, again I repeat, do not be in a hurry while attempting the questions in the reading section, because I told you this is the section where you can score maximum marks. So, you need to read the passage carefully, read the question, and also read all the options very carefully, and then try to mark the correct option. In the next class, I will see you with a new topic. Until then, take care, stay safe, stay at home.